بسم الله بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed. So today we will go over Arkan al-Hajj wal-Umrah. Like usual, we are going over Sharh al-Umdah, commentary on al-Umdah, Kitab Umdat al-Fiqh, the book of Umdat al-Fiqh, which was authored by Imam ibn Qudamah al-Hanbali, who died in the year 620 after Hijrah. The matn is a Hanbali matn, and we provide some limited sort of comparative commentary. We cannot do the other madhahib justice just by mentioning them, but we try to mention their positions, particularly in major points, whenever it is warranted. But we are not certainly doing them justice, like So for the detailed positions of the different madhahib, other than the Hanbali madhab, people may refer to textbooks on those particular madhahib. Okay. Bab Arkan al-Hajj wal-Umrah, pillars of Hajj and Umrah. Arkan al-Hajj, Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah said, Arkan al-Hajj al-Wuquf bi-Arafah wa Tawaf al-Ziyarah. The pillars of Hajj are standing at Arafah and the Tawaf al-Ziyarah. And that's it. That's what he said here in this particular book. But is that the Hanbali position, that Arkan al-Hajj, the pillars of Hajj? Keep in mind, just this ambiguation here. What is the difference between Rukn and Wajib and Shart? Rukn is a pillar, meaning what? If you don't do it, the act is completely invalid. The act is just invalid. And there is no expiation. The expiation is just to do it. Like in Salah, if I do not do ruku' in one rak'ah, do not do ruku' in one rak'ah, can I make up by two sajdas? I will have to make two sajdas. But I will also have to repeat the whole rak'ah, or if I did not move beyond a certain point, I go back to the ruku'. But the idea here is, this ruku' you just get, that's a pillar. That's a pillar, a rukn. Likewise, in Hajj, the same applies to pillars. What is a mandatory action? Wajib. That is not a rukn. Wajib, that is not a rukn. Mandatory action, that's not a pillar. What would that be? If you must do it, you earn a sin if you don't do it. You compromise your ibadah if you don't do it. Compromise ibadah, earn a sin, you disobeyed Allah, but your ibadah is still valid. Still valid. And there may be expiation. And the expiation may not be the makeup of this thing itself, but a different form of expiation. A different form of expiation. Like in the Salah in particular, Hanbalis have this like three-tiered classification that others don't have. In the Salah, Hanbalis have rukns and wajibs, just like Hajj, and preferred acts. So in the Salah, for instance, if you miss a wajib, according to the Hanbali view, if you miss a wajib, what do? Two sajdas will be enough, and you don't need to repeat it. Okay? In Hajj, the same applies. If you miss a wajib, what do? Ibn Abbas said, Man nasiya nusukan, أو تركه فليهرق دما. Whoever forgets to do a certain nusuk, one of the rituals of Hajj that is mandatory, أو تركه, or neglected it, فليهرق دما, let him offer a sacrifice. Let him offer a sacrifice. So let him shed blood. But it sounds a little gruesome. But it means let him offer a sacrifice. So going back to Arkan al-Hajj and Wajibat, these are the differences. What is the difference between Rukn and Shart, a pillar and a condition? Huh? They're equally strong in terms of strength. If you don't do them, the ibadah is invalid. But the condition, as you guys said, the condition is not part of the ibadah itself. It is a prerequisite of it, not part of it, a prerequisite of it. Is wudu part of your salah? No. But is it a prerequisite? Yes. Right. That is clear. Rukn, shart, wajib, because these things are very important when we discuss this topic. The difference between rukn and shart and wajib. Anyone has any confusion about this? Shart, condition, rukn, pillar, wajib, mandatory action. Good. So, Imam al-Qudamah rahimahullah said, Arkan al-Hajj al-Wuquf bi-Arafah wa tawaf al-Ziyarah. The pillars of Hajj are standing at Arafah and tawaf al-Ziyarah. It is very important for you, particularly those who are going to Hajj, to understand everything about these, because you don't want to come back here and say, well, it didn't count. But keep in mind that they disagree all the time over things, so try to do everything, including the sunnah. Certainly you want to do this. This is your greatest time to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make use of every minute when you are there, and get as close as you can to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and capitalize on this opportunity that Allah had given you. So do the sunnah because you want to do the sunnah, but also because sometimes they disagree over things, and you want to be safe. They disagree over this sunnah or wajib. Is this wajib or a pillar? They disagree over things, and you want to be safe. So he said tawaf and wuquf bi-Arafah. And these are both by consensus. Arafah and tawaf ziyara or tawaf al-ifada. Tawaf al-ifada, which is the one before the last. The last is tawaf al-wada', farewell tawaf. The one before the last, which has to happen, on the 10th or later, that one is tawaf al-ziyara. That is the one that is the rukn. Not the one that you do when you come in, arrival, qudum, no. The one that is rukn is the one that is done on the 10th or later. That is tawaf al-ziyara or ifada, and that is the pillar tawaf. This is by consensus. But that is not even the Hanbali view. I would put here ihram, because I would put here ihram in this circle. Ihram in what sense in this circle? Because I will come to it later. Ihram in the sense of the intention of Hajj. The intention of Hajj. According to the Hanafis, even it has to be verbalized, but not according to the majority. The ihram is the intention of Hajj, that I embark now on this ritual. According to the Hanafis, it has to be verbalized. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik is a verbalization of this intention. So you should do it. Everybody said you want to do that. But the Hanafis consider the verbalization of intention to be part of that ihram. Why do I put it here? Because all of them mean to put it here. The Hanafis, Hanbalis, Malikis, and Shafi'is, they consider it to be rukn. Hanafis consider it to be a condition. It doesn't matter, does it? Practically speaking, rukn or shart, does it matter? No, it is still a requirement. Without it, you don't have Hajj. So these are three things: ihram, tawaf, and arafah. You got to do all three in order for your Hajj to count. Now we will talk about ihram from al-miqat, and that's obligatory. Ihram from the ihram side, miqat, is an obligation, not a rukn. So who's here in this circle? In this circle you have only two. You have A2, which is not even the stronger view in the Hanbali madhab, and the Hanafi madhab in this circle. Add sa'i to this. Add sa'i. Add sa'i to this circle. So ihram, tawaf, arafah, plus sa'i. And who's in this circle? In this circle, you will have A, which is the proper Hanbali position, plus M. That's the Maliki position in this circle. Shafi'is, they have the sort of the largest circle here. That is the Shafi'is. What do they do? We should actually make it a little bigger. Shafi'is. What do they add? So why am I putting them in circles? Because this applies to all of them. And so the bigger circle has all these circles inside it, all the smaller circles inside it. What the Shafi'is do here, they add what? Shaving / shortening. Halq or taqsir. Shaving / shortening. And they add doing these things in the prescribed order. According to them, this is also called a pillar or a rukn. You want your Hajj to count according to the four mazahib, what do? You do all of these. And if you do all of these, your Hajj will count according to the four mazahib. If you miss this, your Hajj will not count according to the Shafi'is. But honestly speaking, if you miss shaving, you'll be in trouble according to the other mazahib, because they will not consider you to have come out from your state of ihram, and then you can't do anything that, you should not be doing when you're in a state of ihram. If you don't do sa'i, then it will count according to the Hanafis and one position in the Hanbali madhab. So you want to do all of them for your Hajj to count according to all four madhab. But let us go back to them one by one. He said al-Wuquf bi-Arafah, and that is by consensus. There is no disagreement over this whatsoever. Al-Wuquf bi-Arafah. Huh? Move the mic to the white part. Yeah. So Arafah, everybody has to stand at Arafah. There are some things, if you want to be careful, and I point those things out so that people are careful. The Prophet ﷺ said, al-Hajj Arafah. Al-Hajj Arafah. Which, this hadith of Abdurrahman ibn Ya'mur, which means what? Hajj is all about Arafah. And then he said, "Man ja'a laylata jam'a qabla tulu' al-fajr faqad tamma hajjuh." Whoever comes on the day, on the night of Jam', which is the night of the 10th, the eve of the 10th, qabla tulu' al-fajr, before sunrise, before dawn, faqad tamma hajjuh. His Hajj is complete. Whoever goes to Arafah before dawn of the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, his Hajj is complete. That is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Arafah is a pillar by consensus, and it has the strongest proof on being the main pillar of Hajj, But in order for you to do this right, keep in mind that the Shafi'is and Hanbalis consider it permissible to make Wuquf bi Arafah any time from the dawn of the 9th to the dawn of the 10th. Any time from the dawn of the 9th to the dawn of the 10th. Why do they do this? Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith of Urwa ibn Mudarris, وَقَدْ أَتَى عَرَفَةَ وَقَدْ وَقَفَ بِعَرَفَةَ قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ فِي أَيِّ وَقْتٍ مِّن لَيْلٍ أَوْ نَهَارٍ أَوْ كَمَا قَالَ. And he had stood at Arafah prior to this. Man salla ma'ana salatana hadihi, whoever prays this prayer with us, and he had stood at Arafah prior to this at any time of the day and night, then his Hajj is complete. This hadith of Urwa ibn Mudarris, the Shafi'is and Hanbalis use basically the implication of this, the zahir of this hadith, and they say any time in the day or night, from the dawn of the 9th to the dawn of the 10th, you stand any time of the day and the night, you're fine. it will count. So if you go, according to the Hanbalis, for instance, if you go to Arafah at 10 o'clock in the morning and you spend 5 minutes there and leave, your Hajj is good according to whom? Hanbalis and Shafi'is. Keep in mind, they'll ask you to offer a sacrifice because according to the Hanbalis, you have to wait until the night after sunset and then move to Muzdalifah. If you move to Muzdalifah before sunset, they will require you to offer a sacrifice because you violated what? Wajib, not a pillar. The pillar, you already fulfilled it by standing at Arafah, but you violated the wajib. Who will not count this? The Malikis and Hanafis. The Hanafis, they say that the time of Arafah, standing at Arafah, starts from Zawal, from the noon. And the Malikis will say that the time starts from Maghrib, from sunset. You may have not heard this before, but the point of mentioning this is what? To emphasize the earlier point that I made. You want to do it right. Because doing it right, like the Prophet ﷺ said, you will certainly be safe according to everybody. So how do you do it right here? Is that you combine part of the day and part of the night. But if you cannot combine part of the day and part of the night, and if you go to Arafah after Maghrib, on the 9th, after Maghrib, at like 11 p.m., you're safe according to all of them. But that is not the best way. And you don't need to expiate in the Hanbali mazhab. If you arrive late, you need to expiate if you left before sunset. But they say that the best wuquf bi Arafah is when you combine part of the day and part of the night. Meaning that you get there before Maghrib and you leave there after Maghrib. You get to Arafah before Maghrib and you leave Arafah after Maghrib. In this case, you would have fulfilled the pillar according to all of them. You would have fulfilled the obligation according to all of them, and you would have done the sunnah according to all of them. Because the Prophet ﷺ came before Maghrib and left, he came actually before Dhuhr. And he left after Maghrib, and he left after sunset. So that is al-Wuquf bi Arafah. You want to come before Maghrib and leave after Maghrib. If you arrive after Maghrib, you're fine and you don't need to expiate. If you stand at Arafah before Maghrib but leave before Maghrib, you will have to expiate according to the Hanbalis. Your Hajj does not count according to the Malikis. Only the Malikis will say that your Hajj does not count. Only the Malikis will say your Hajj does not count. Because according to the Hanafis, it starts from Zawal. So, bottom line, stand at Arafah before Maghrib, get there before Maghrib to catch the Sunnah, and stay at Arafah until sunset, and proceed to Muzdalifah only after sunset. That's Arafah. Second, Tawaf al-Ziyarah. Tawaf al-Ziyarah was reported by Aisha radiallahu anha. Where does this come from? The Rukniyya, being a pillar. Where does this come from? Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet ﷺ, when Safiya had her period, he said, "Habisatun ahi." Will she prevent us from from leaving Mecca because she had her period now and we have to wait for her until her period ends and then she makes tawaf? They said no. They said to him, لَقَدْ أَفَاضَتْ. She made tawaf al-ifada. فَقَالْ لَا إِذَنْ. He said, then, no, we will not have to stay around. If she made tawaf al-ifada, we don't have to stay around. What does that mean? It means that the tawaf al-ifada is essential. It meant to the scholars of the four mazahib that tawaf al-ifada is essential. Otherwise, we cannot leave without making tawaf al-ifada. Okay? So according to the four mazahib, tawaf al-ifada is essential. Which tawaf is this? The one in the middle. The first one is qudum, arrival. The last one is farewell, wada'. The one in the middle, which starts on the 10th, and can be done, according to the Hanbalis, any time afterwards. And according to the Hanafis, until the end of the end of days of Tashriq, according to the Malikis, until the end of the Hajj. Anyway, but it starts from the 10th and can be done afterwards. This is the one that is a pillar, Tawaf al-Ifadah. And we talked about the conditions of Tawaf last time, so we will not repeat them. When you remember the conditions of Tawaf, remember the conditions of prayers. For every condition, there is a counterpart, a similar condition in Tawaf for every condition of the conditions of the prayer. Then the Shaykh said, وَوَاجِبَاتُهُ, and its mandatory acts, الإحرام من الميقات والوقوف بعرفة إلى الليل والمبيت بمزدلفة إلى نصف الليل والسعي والمبيت بمنى والرمي والحلق وطواف الوداع. وواجباته الإحرام من الميقات. Its mandatory acts are making ihram from the miqat. Remember, we said ihram is a pillar according to everyone. But to make ihram is basically simply the intention. The Hanafis add to this verbalization. But making ihram from the proper site of ihram is not a pillar. So if you made ihram in Mecca, you just went there and made ihram from Mecca. Is that proper? No. Is your Hajj valid? Yes. What are you required to do? Offer a sacrifice. Shed blood. Okay. So that's the first one. Ihram al-miqat. والوقوف بعرفة إلى الليل. Standing at Arafah until sunset. Standing in Arafah until sunset. Standing at Arafah until sunset is obligatory because that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, and he said, خُذُوا عَنِّي مَنَاسِكَكُمْ, or take your rituals from me. But it is not a pillar because the Prophet ﷺ كان قد أتى عرفة ليلا أو نهارا, or في أي وقت من ليل أو نهار, and he had come to Arafah before any time of the day and the night. So it is not a pillar, but it is an obligation. وَالْمَبِيتُ بِمُزْدَلِفَةٍ إِلَى نِصْفِ اللَّيْلِ. وَالْمَبِيتُ بِمُزْدَلِفَةٍ, staying until midnight in Muzdalifah. On your way back from Arafah, you will go through Muzdalifah, right? You will go through Muzdalifah. The Hanafis will require of you, all of them consider the Mabit bil Muzdalifah, to be an obligation. The Hanafis will require of you to spend some time after Fajr in Muzdalifah, because that is the time that is obligatory for them. The Hanbalis and Shafi'is will want you to spend most of the night until midnight in Muzdalifah. After midnight, you could proceed. If you proceed to Mina after midnight, are you doing the Sunnah? No, you're not. But are you violating any obligation? No, you're not. If you proceed to Mina before midnight and you're not a sick elderly person or someone who is in the company of the sick and the elderly, you violated an obligation, according to the Shafi'is and the Hanbalis. The Malikis will only ask you to be in Muzdalifah for a short while, and that's it. Hanbalis and Shafi'is will ask you to be in Muzdalifah until midnight. The Prophet ﷺ stayed in Muzdalifah until when? Right before sunrise. Right before sunrise. And that's what you try to do. But if you need to leave after midnight. If you leave after midnight, you will not have, you will be okay according to 3 out of 4. That's Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali. Will be according to 3 out of 4. But if you stay until Fajr, pray Fajr there, go to Mash'ar al-Haram and make the dua and wait until right before Fajr, then you will be safe according to everybody, and you will have asabta sunnah. You will have done that which is sunnah, followed the sunnah. Then the Shaykh said, was sa'i, and the sa'i. Sa'i here, Sa'i here was mentioned in the obligations because in the Hanbali madhab, there is this agreement. And the funny thing sometimes in the madhab is that you have the same scholar, upholding a certain position in one book and a different position in a different book. So Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah had authored 4 different books on the Hanbali Fiqh. That is al-Umdat, and then al-Muqna', and al-Kafi, and al-Mughni. And he mentions different positions regarding as-Sa'i in his different books. So is it wajib or a pillar? It is a pillar according to the more popular position in the Hanbali madhab and the Malikis. Pillar according to the more popular position in the Hanbali madhab and Malikis. So Sa'i is a pillar according to the more popular position in the Hanbali madhab. Why are they disagreeing? When I tell you it is pillar according to the more popular position or the authorized position, I'm not saying that that is the correct position. Because in fact, evidence-wise, Sa'i does not look to be an obligation, a pillar. Evidence-wise, because what do you use to justify making it a pillar? Is'aw fa'inna Allah qad kataba alaykum as-sa'i. Reported by al-Bayhaqi from the Prophet ﷺ authentically. Is'aw fa'inna Allah qad kataba alaykum as-sa'i. Make sa'i, for Allah had prescribed sa'i for you. Or demanded sa'i of you. Because kataba could be prescribed or could be demanded. Let us say demanded. Even if it is demanded. Could it just be an obligation? Is this wording suitable for merely an obligation? Yes. Because in order for you to consider something to be a pillar or a condition, you need to have some validation that it is essential to the point where if you don't do it, your thing is not valid. Like al-Hajj Arafah. Hajj is about Arafah. Isn't that enough to say that Arafah is a pillar? Yes. Tawaf al-Ifada. When the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ahabisatuna hi," will she prevent us from proceeding then? To the vast majority of scholars, that sounded like that is essential. So it would, but for Hajj, is'aw, make sa'i. Allah had prescribed it or demanded it of you. And then Aisha said, "Ma atamma Allahu hajja imri'in wala umratahu lam yatuf bayna as-Safa wal Marwa." Aisha said, may Allah not sort of complete, or it is not complete, the Hajj or Umrah of someone who did not make sa'i between Safa and Marwa. She used the word tawaf, between Safa and Marwa. Between Safa and Marwa. Is this enough to say that it is a pillar? Someone may say yes, because your Hajj is not complete. But that particular expression is used often to say, often to basically indicate that you compromised your ibadah, not invalidated it. Compromised. It is not complete, it is incomplete. Yes, it is incomplete. But when you say it is incomplete, you say it's there, right? You're saying it's existent, but it is incomplete. Al-Mahiyya. Let us say someone, God forbid, had his arm cut off. Is he complete? Well, he is somewhat. Is he there, existent? Because al-Mahiyya, what is al-Mahiyya is there. Your arm is not necessary. But the idea here is to leave out an obligation, you compromise your ibadah. These are the two strongest proofs that we have on the importance of sa'i. Do they qualify sa'i to be a pillar or just an obligation? That is what the scholars disagree about. And you see that their disagreement is sort of justifiable disagreement. Because some of them felt, إِسْعَوْا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ عَلَيْكُمُ السَّعِي مَا أَتَمَّ اللَّهُ حَجَّ امْرِئٍ وَلَا عُمْرَتَهُ وَلَمْ يَطُفْ بَيْنَ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةِ. Some of them felt that these expressions are strong enough to indicate it's a pillar. Some felt it is not. Then he said, وَالْمَبِيتُ بِمِنَى, and staying overnight in Mina. Staying overnight in Mina. Staying overnight in Mina is an obligation according to everyone except the Hanafis. They consider it sunnah. But what is important here is to know that staying overnight in Mina, the same applies to staying overnight in Muzdalifah in the Hanbali and the Shafi'i madhab. They're talking about most of the night. Therefore, if you want to go to Mecca, that will not be the sunnah. But if you want to go to your hotel room in Mecca because you just, you're one of those people who say, I want to go to Mauritania and stuff, and just freak out when they don't have hot water coming down the sink. If you're one of those people and you really want to go to your hotel room in Mecca, then you could go after midnight. What is midnight? 12 a.m., right? Wrong. From Maghrib to Fajr, and then you divide it by 2, and then you add that to Maghrib, and you figure out midnight. So you need to stay until midnight so that you would have stayed most of the night in Mina. And then you could go wherever you want. But certainly it is better, and it's the sunnah to stay in Mina, to spend your nights in Mina. Okay. What if you miss one of those nights? We said that the Hanafis, it's not a problem for them because it's not an obligation. But for the Jumhur, if you miss one night in Mina, you donate 1 mudd of food, the fill of 2 hands of food. The 1 mudd, which is 510 grams approximately. It's a volume, not a weight, but approximately 500 and change grams. 2 nights in Mina, 2 mudds. 3 nights in Mina, you offer a sacrifice. You offer a sacrifice. And that's according to the Hanbalis and Shafi'is. They do not consider missing 1 night to warrant the offer of a complete sacrifice. They say 1 mudd, 2 mudds, and then the Hanafis, you don't have to do anything. The Malikis, missing any night, you offer a sacrifice. Okay. So that is al-Mabid b'Mina, or staying over a night in Mina. Warrami and stoning, it's another obligation. Stoning is another obligation. And stoning is an obligation according to whom? Most of these obligations are obligations according to everybody, by the way. And we pointed out when they are not. Stoning is an obligation according to whom? Everybody. The 4 madhahib said that stoning is an obligation. There is so much disagreement about, the details. But in essence, stoning is an obligation according to everyone. One of the issues that we alluded to last time is that people nowadays, contemporary scholars, are very flexible when it comes to the time of stoning. And why is that? Because maqasid al-sharia are important to observe here. The intent of the legislator, maqsood al-shara, maqasid al-sharia, the objectives of the law are important. Preserving preserving life in general is one of maqasid al-sharia. And if there is so much crowdedness, then you make concessions. Mashaqqa tajlib at-taysir. Hardship calls for the making of concessions, warrants making concessions. Now, if you want to do it the sunnah way, when do you make Rami? When does the time of Rami start? The sunnah way. For Jamrat al-Aqaba, the first day on the 10th, when does the time start? From Duha, around the time of Duha. It's after sunrise on that day. It is okay anytime after midnight. Let's just discuss the Hanbali view here.
After midnight?
After midnight. It's okay anytime after midnight of the eve, the previous. Because you left Muzdalifah after midnight. You arrived in Mina before Fajr. Can I make Rami now? It would not be the Sunnah. Would it suffice? It would suffice.
Didn't you say only the Hanafis would let you leave early from Muzdalifah?
No. I said the Hanbalis and Shafi'is will let you leave after midnight. The Hanafis will want you to stay until Fajr, and then you have to be in Muzdalifah for some time after Fajr. The Malikis will let you leave Muzdalifah, will let you go through, like Hatt al-Rihal, just like a short while, a very short while, in Muzdalifah. You left after midnight, you arrived in Mina. Can I do my Rami now on the eve of the 10th? Yes, you can. It would be better to do it the Sunnah way and wait until sunrise and do it afterwards. When does the time of Rami on the following days start? Zawal, noon. That is the Sunnah way. When does it, and Zawal, that is the Sunnah way according to the four madhahib, by the way. When does it end? Shafi'is and Hanafis, they extend it until Fajr. For Malikis, it is extended, but it is qada, not ada. It is makeup, not on time. But Hanafis and Shafi'is extend it to Fajr. Hanbalis, it ends at sunset. So you have that. Hanbalis would be the sort of the strictest here, having the smallest window for Rami al-Jamarat. If we all try to be Hanbalis and make Rami al-Jamarat between Zuhr and sunset, 1/3 of the Hujjaj are not going to come back. Because already with all the flexibility that we have, the stampedes that we have, there is a good number of them almost every other year that don't come back. But so here, what are contemporary scholars saying? The scholar never said the time starts here and ends there. If he said we had to follow, but sometimes even if there are darurat, you could eat pork if there are darurat. But forget about the darurat now. The Prophet ﷺ did not start, it was just what he did. And the scholars started to deduce from this, when does the time start, when does the time end? There are certain positions, within the Hanafi madhab there is a less popular position, and this is the position of Tawus and others, that the time of Rami al-Jamarat starts from Fajr. And like we said, so the Jamarat of the 11th, when can you start? From the Fajr. The Fajr of what? The 11th. And then according to the popular position within of the majority, it extends through the night until the Fajr of the following day. And that is what many people are doing nowadays. That is a contemporary fatwa. That is patch up of different mazahib and also from outside of the authorized view of the four mazahib. To preserve life. Preserving life is not a bad idea. It really isn't. So Rami al-Jamarat in this case starts from the Fajr until Fajr. And we allow the people to, and then they should make sure that there is some coordination between the different afwaj of al-Hajj, so that there is not that much crowdedness. And we allow the people to make Rami at any time. If you want, but from Zuhr until Fajr, you will be safe according to the majority. You'll be safe according to the majority. Doing it the Sunnah way, which is from Dhuhr until Maghrib, which is the obligation in the Hanbali madhab. It's obligatory in the Hanbali madhab to do it then. That will really restrict it, will really limit it. Now, the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is have a good surprise for you. If you don't do the stoning on the 11th, on the 10th, and the 11th, and even the 12th, you're good. You could do all of them on these 13th. Because according to the Hanbalis and Shafi'is, you could make up all the stoning, before you leave and go home. Now, the Hanafis and Malikis will not buy this. Stoning every day ends by the end of the day. So the stoning for the 11th, you missed it if you did not do it by the end of the day of the 11th. What is that? It has to be before sunset. It has to be before sunset on the 13th. But if you want tanfir early, if you want to proceed earlier on the 12th, and you have not made any rami yet, you could combine the 10th, 11th, and 12th. And if you combine the 10th, 11th, and 12th, you need to have 49 pebbles in your pocket. 49. And then what do you do? What do you do to combine? You go to Jamrat al-Aqaba, because this is the 10th. And you do the rami of Jamrat al-Aqaba. After you go to Ramit al-Aqaba, you walk back to al-Jamra al-Sughra. You walk back to the minor Jamra. And you do 7 for the 11th. And then the Wusta, the middle one, 7 for the 11th. And then al-Aqaba, 7 for the 11th. And then you walk back to al-Jamra al-Sughra, the minor one, 7 for the 12th. And then you move to al-Wusta, 7 for the 12th. And then you move to al-Aqaba, 7 for the 12th. And then you could leave. And you would have sufficed that obligation. Is that clear? That's all about rami. If you miss one or two, so that you're not obsessive. I'm saying this because there are those fellows that are particularly obsessive. If you miss one or two jamarat, the Hanbalis will not, have any problem with you, except that they will tell you, give some charity, like anything, one date, anything. Just give, just to sort of redeem yourself from that, from missing one or two jamarat. If you miss them intentionally, you give charity. If you miss them unintentionally, there is nothing required of you in the Hanbali method. But that is a minority position, because the other scholars did not say that. Keep in mind, the Hanafis are okay with you hitting 4 out of 7 and 11 out of 21. So 11 out of 21 in a day, that's good. 4 out of 7 for each jamra, that is good. Because they give the most, the ruling of the whole. They give the most, the ruling of the al-akthar hukma al-kull. يعطون الأكثر حكم الكل. They give them the most, the ruling of the whole. And I'm saying this so that people are not particularly obsessive about the jamarat. The Hanafis will take 4 out of 7 from you, and the Hanbalis will forgive 1 or 2 missed hasayat or pebbles. Al-halq, wal-halq, and it also he said wal-halq, shaving or shortening of the hair. Shaving or shortening of the hair is a pillar according to the Shafi'is. But it is necessary, essential for you to be able to remove your ihram according to all of them, particularly the final ihram, because we said that the first ihram, 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 will get you out of the first ihram, and the 2 out of 3 could be what? Could be rami, halq, or tawaf. 2 out of those 3 will get you out of. So you could do rami and tawaf and get out of your first ihram, but you will have to do halq to get out of the second or the partial ihram and be completely okay, completely halal. So halq is essential. If you don't make halq, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. In the Hanbali mazhab, some people will consider you liable for a sacrifice just because you did not make halq until you left, until after the days of Tashriq and after you leave. And some of them will say, no, there is no problem that you did not make halq because halq is not a nusuk, it is just an exit from the nusuk. It is not a ritual in and of itself. It exits you, it takes you out of the ritual. The popular position is that it is also a nusuk. It's an obligation and you sacrifice. But if you don't sacrifice, but if you don't make halq, don't think that the other position is also like easy. Because if you don't make halq, you're still in ihram. Even if you got out of your first ihram, you're still in ihram. Now you have you cannot have any sort of marital relations and even lustful touching. And also you cannot get into any marriage contract. If you're 16, you'll probably be good for a few years. You could make it back, but otherwise it will be a problem. And then every time you do something, then you will need to sacrifice, and it's going to be trouble. Anyway, huh? But the thing is, your Hajj is valid. It counted as valid. You made Hajj. If you're not Shafi'i and you don't shave your head, you made Hajj. Now you come back on the day of judgment and you have like sort of 2,047 sacrifices that you did. But you made Hajj. Okay. Then Sheikh said, وأركان العمرة الطواف وواجباتها الإحرام والسعي wait a second. والحلق وطواف الوداع. Actually, we will have to defer Umrah until next time. Alhamdulillah, we do have time, so we probably should defer Umrah and defer the rest of it. And next time it will be about al-Hadi, the offerings, the sacrifice, and the adahi, and so on. But then let's just finish the obligations of Hajj. The last obligation that the Sheikh mentioned here is what? Tawaf al-Wada' and the farewell tawaf. And that's according to the Hanafis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis. It's an obligation, Tawaf al-Wada'. Because Abdullah ibn Abbas said, أُمِرَ النَّاسِ أَنْ يَكُونَ آخِرَ عَهْدِهِمْ أو أَنْ يَكُونَ آخِرُ عَهْدِهِمْ بِالْبَيْتِ. The people were commanded to make the last place they visit before they depart, al-Bayt, the house. To make the house the last place they visit before they depart. People were commanded to make the house the last place they visit before they depart. إِلَّا أَنَّهُ خُفِّفَ عَنَ الْحَائِضِ, except that it was made lighter for the ha'id, or a concession was made for the ha'id, the menstruating woman. If she did not make her tawaf al-wada' yet, then we said that she will just make her dua and come near the masjid and make the dua, but she is not required to make tawaf al-wada'. There is no expiation, there is no liability for her whatsoever. If you did not make tawaf al-wada' and you left Mecca, you come back and do it if you're close by. If you are far away, then what is required of you in the Hanbali madhab and according to the majority is what? Sacrifice. Every time you omit an obligation, you forget an obligation, or you neglect an obligation, there is a sacrifice binding on you. There is a sacrifice binding on you, an offering. What is that offering? Goat or sheep. Goat or sheep. If, and we will discuss this next time, if you cannot afford it, what is the makeup? Fasting 3 days on Hajj and 7 days when you go back. If it happened in the past and you're not on Hajj anymore, then fasting 10 days. 3 plus 7 is 10. But if you're on Hajj, then it's 3 plus 7. 3 in Hajj and 7 when you go back. But if you're talking about this in retrospect and you had already gone home, then you will fast 10 days if you cannot afford to send a sacrifice to al-Harem, or to have like someone, an agent, act on your behalf and slaughter for you. Inshallah, next time we will discuss the rest of the issues, al-Fawat, which is missing al-Hajj, and أركان العمرة أركان العمرة وواجباتها, the pillars and the mandatory actions of al-Umrah, inshallah, as well as al-Hadi wal-Adahi, offerings and udhiyah. قولوا قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. We'll give